UFC 314, Alexander the Great Volkanovski takes on Diego Lopes for the vacant 145-pound belt. Is Volkanovski going to get knocked out again, or is he going to reclaim his belt once and for all? Let's get into it. Heading straight into the breakdown, Volkanovski takes on Lopes for the vacant 145-pound belt. Volkanovski, in my eyes, he's getting disrespected to the maximum here. I know that he's coming off a back-to-back KO loss, which is brutal, and especially at the age of 36 and a low weight class, usually that isn't good. But who are we talking about here? We're talking about the 145-pound GOAT. I don't understand how the odds are minus 155 for Volkanovski, because he is a champion. He's a championship level fighter. He is getting older. Maybe he's getting slower. Maybe he's more chinny. And if you watched any of Diego Lopes's fights, you know that this guy brings the heat. He is the danger. And I'd say that Diego Lopes, he's dangerous on the feet. He's got one-punch power. He's dangerous on the ground. He has takedowns. He has great submissions, even off the bottom. But the only difference is he's facing the 145-pound GOAT. I don't understand. I feel like this is free money on Volkanovski. Volkanovski, he has 13 wins in the UFC. He's been champ for so long. He's beaten the likes of Max Holloway 3 times, Yair Rodriguez. He's beaten Brian Ortega. He's beaten Jose Aldo. And you know what? Diego Lopes, he has a lot of aura. He has a lot of finishes. And he looks like a powerhouse that is hard to stop. But Volkanovski, he's just too experienced. He's got too much IQ. He's faced so many people that are like Diego Lopes. There is that side of Volkanovski getting knocked out, especially coming off of back-to-back knockout losses. But who are those 2 knockout losses by? 155-pound GOAT and the current pound-for-pound fighter, which he also went to a close decision with in their first fight. In their second fight, took it on short notice, got knocked out, was a bit out of shape. We regretted taking that fight, and then got knocked out by Ilia Topuria. And you know what? Ilia Topuria, he has shown that he is just that elite level. The guy who was one-punching everybody in the 145-pound division. And even though he got knocked out in that fight, he was finding success. He was finding a lot of leg kicks. He was finding a lot of jabs. He still is fast. And he also took the Ilia fight a little bit too short notice from his knockout. Regardless of how big of a fan you are of a fighter, getting knocked out back-to-back is no good. And Diego Lopes, in his last 2 fights, he looked like he had a lot of power. He had us a lot of danger. He hurt Brian Ortega in his last fight. Should have probably finished him, but that fight went to a decision. Kind of just shows that if you're tough enough, you'll be able to survive. In his fight before then, it was against Dan Ige. He dominated him in the first 2 rounds, and then ended up gassing out in the 3rd round. It was a short notice, but he also had a training camp in that fight, so it's not like he should have been gassed out. It was just a change of opponents, which is a big thing as well. But I'd say Dan Ige is nowhere near the level of Volkanovski. And if you're struggling against the likes of Dan Ige, Brian Ortega, Volkanovski is just going to work you. I think that Volkanovski, he's going to utilize his leg kicks really well. He's going to have a fast jab. I think that he's just going to be connecting against Lopes over and over. Lopes is going to get hit up too much. Lopes obviously can find that knockout blow just because Volkanovski is getting older. He might be washed, but how washed does he have to be to get knocked out by Diego Lopes? I feel like he would have to be pretty washed, because I feel like Diego Lopes is a similar fighter to Yair Rodriguez with a better ground game. And Diego Lopes has been seen to be taken down, held down, controlled, even though he is active off the bottom and looks for submissions and looks to get damage off. You can see this fight ending in finish or decision because it's a toss-up, but I think it all depends on how tough Lopes is. Is Lopes going to have the cardio to keep up with Volkanovski's pace? Is he going to be able to be tough enough to survive? Because gassing in the 3rd round, I feel like he might struggle in the 4th and 5th. You know, I honestly see Volkanovski putting the pace on Diego Lopes, landing a lot of strikes, and keeping it at him, not letting him breathe. And I think that Diego Lopes will start to crumble in the later rounds. In 4th and 5th round, I can see a finish, and that's going to be my prediction, that Volkanovski in the 4th or 5th round finds a TKO, whether he gets a takedown and gets some ground and pound going, or just accumulation of punches, because he does have a really good volume. Diego Lopes isn't some crazy volume guy, and I think that he won't be able to get the takedowns against Volkanovski. If this fight does go to the ground, it's going to be on Volkanovski's terms, and I think that Diego Lopes, he just hasn't faced somebody like Volkanovski. He has faced somebody who is really high level in Evloev, which was his debuting fight, which he has gotten a lot better since then, but I'd say Evloev, he isn't really any danger. He has takedowns, he can hold you down, which he did a pretty good job of getting up and not getting controlled too much, but I'd say Volkanovski is just too much of a threat on the feet. He isn't really known as some knockout guy, but he has 5 knockouts, and I think that Diego Lopes will probably just start to crumble a little bit because Volkanovski will put on a pace. He's eager for that win. He's eager to get his belt back. He wants to get his get back. He's been knocked out 2 times in a row. He's definitely not taking this fight lightly. Aside from the one-punch Kacha fluke knockout on Diego Lopez's side, I honestly don't see how Volkanovski loses this fight. If this fight does go to the decision, I honestly, there's like a 99% chance that Volkanovski wins. He's taken more than a year off now, and I think that he honestly has dialed it in. He's locked in. I don't see him losing this fight other than the fluke knockout. So give me Volkanovski with medium-high confidence. Low confidence in this fight going finish, but I think that Volkanovski will be able to get it done by TKO in the 4th or 5th round.